And we are live now. Are we a minute off? Boat Wreck, he says we're a minute off.
A minute off.
I
Oh,
it says
no, it says
7:30
7:30
on
here.
my clock.
I mean 8:30. Sorry, my clock says 8:30. Why
Yeah,
would it
well,
say
that's how
7:30?
time zone works. But
7:30 on my clock.
yes, we
You're
are
wrong, sir.
here. We are here. We are live. We are
Yes.
starting off our Star Trek Lower Decks talk. So now that we have some people watching, let's just go ahead and jump into the show. We'll kick off our intro and take things from there. Let Brian finish coughing. And all right, we good to go?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm Fathery,
I'm Starfleet Boy.
And this is Brian.
and this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 150th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we have deep talks about Star Trek. And tonight we are getting ready for next week's premiere of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 2. And we're going to celebrate by counting down our top 3 things we most would like to see in Season 2. It's kind of a tradition on the show. We've been doing this. I think we skipped Discovery Season 3 because Lower Decks ran right into it, but all the other new seasons of Star Trek, we've done this normally with me and Dave, or me and a special guest. But today it is my honor to be joined by Starfleet Boy and Brian.
Hello.
Greetings.
I wore my special shirt for this.
Yeah, I'm wearing my Lower Decks shirt.
Nice.
All I have from New Trek so far is my disco shirt. So that's
nice.
Close enough,
We're
I
all
guess.
we're all on theme. It's good.
I will try to be animated, however.
There you go. But yeah, so we're getting more animated Star Trek with Lower Decks soon, and then we might get Prodigy pretty quickly after the end of Lower Decks. But for the next 10 weeks, we will be focused on Star Trek Lower Decks. One little tidbit about that: next week I will be at Star Trek Las Vegas, or well, it's not called that anymore, but the Star Trek creation, whatever the convention, 55-year mission that's in Las Vegas, that people are still using the hashtag STLV. So I guess it's kind of okay to still call it that. I will be there at the con. It's going to be really weird because they have a bunch of COVID procedures in place, which is a good thing. I feel pretty good about the stuff they're doing, but I will try to be streaming from there, from the hotel. I believe that regardless if I can make it or not, Sohel and Brian will be discussing the Season 2 premiere, and hopefully me too if everything goes according to plan.
Yeah,
So
wouldn't be good to miss the premiere. Though I could see you being lured off by a bunch of premiere parties or something going
Yeah,
on
that
there.
might happen actually.
Yeah, I don't know what the party scene is going to be like with the COVID restrictions in place, but I'm still looking forward to going and having a lot of fun. I've lowered my expectations. I know it's not going to be as cool as it was like when I went before, but I understand the circumstances for that, and I've made my peace with that, and I'm still very much looking forward to it. But yeah, in the meantime, let's kick off this top 3 countdown. So hell, you haven't done one of these with us before, but I think Brian Have you ever been on board for one of these, or is this your first one?
I feel like I've done tops before with you guys before, but I don't remember if it was like one of these. Like we've just maybe it came up or something. But I have a terrible memory, so I'm not sure.
Do you do tops often?
That's in the personal log.
Enough said. Enough said.
That's the after dark part, right?
Yes, exactly. We'll save that for next.
That's the other part of hashtag TQIF. The YouTube lineup. No, what I try to ask people to do with these is, come up with 3 things that stuff that not that we know will be in the show, but things that we just hope will be in the show. So don't say you want to see a little Data action figure, because like we saw that in one of the trailers. We already know that's in there. These are things that we're just hoping for. We each have 3, so we're just going to start with everyone's number 3, and then we'll do everyone's number 2, and then finally everyone's number 1. And if we're going through the list and say my number 3 is also Brian's number 2, then he can go ahead and just comment on it there, and that way we're not having like the same discussion twice. We'll just scratch it off the list. But Brian, I'm gonna ask you to go first. We'll go in reverse order of how we did our intro. So we'll go Brian, Starfleet Boy, and then me. But Brian, what is the number 3 thing that you would like to see in Star Trek Lower Decks season 2?
Number 3 would definitely be I would like to use Tendi as an avenue to explore Orion culture, and what it looks like in the 24th century. There's all sorts of licensed but non-canonical stuff about it, but but almost all of that is based on what it was in the original series in some form or another. I mean, even the stuff on Enterprise is reflecting the stuff from the original series. And are they still is the planet Orion still like that, or is it different now? And so yeah, I'd really like to dig into that a bit, just because that's everybody knows about the green people, but we really don't know a whole lot about them, and especially in the 24th century, because it feels like a whole lot of what we know about them wouldn't probably be, it might not still be there or might not be as big of a part of their culture in the 24th century.
They are pretty iconic because they use the image of green Susan Oliver in the end credits on so many episodes of the original series. I think that was a big part of their iconography. But to be fair, the Orions, I guess they're like the 3rd Star Trek alien species ever created. You'd have like the Vulcans and the Telosians, and then the Orions. Unless you count like the bird creature and that ape creature that were in the cage. They were in the cages in the cage.
Yes.
But no, I really would like to see that. That's actually kind of similar to my number 2, but they're different enough. I'm gonna hold off on revealing my number 2. But that was something that I actually, when I was doing the list for season 1 with our friend Trek on the Tube, that was one of the things I listed then, is I want to see 24th century Orion culture. I want to explore those people. I always thought it'd be funny if like Tendi's family, if like her dad was kind of like a Tony Soprano character, and they're just like kind of like these mafia people. They're like a crime family or something like that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
she's like the black sheep. Like she didn't want to like go into the family business, so she went off and joined Starfleet. She's like as far from a criminal as you can be.
No, that would be fun. Yeah, I would. I mean, we get that one line about the stereotype of all Orions being pirates is discussed on a bit in like one episode, but that kind of feels like really.
Then she says like we've made a lot of progress. A lot of us have like given up on crime for like the last 5 years or something like that.
That's right. They must have had like a revolution or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of potential fun stuff you can do with this question, but and I'm not.
And yeah,
I don't
we
have
haven't
any
we haven't
hard.
seen them in that time period.
I beg your pardon.
We haven't seen them at all in that time period. It's like they showed up on the animated series,
Yeah,
being called Orions for some reason, and then nothing again from the 70s until I guess Enterprise. They always mention like the Orion crime syndicate came up a
yeah,
lot in Deep Space Nine. Kind of had some big stories in that show, but yeah,
yeah.
they didn't really do Orions until we went back to the 22nd and returned to the 23rd centuries.
Yeah, I mean, is the Orion Syndicate the de facto ruler of Orion and its people, or is it, a obnoxious crime organization that the primary group of Orions would love to stamp out, or at least don't really want to be associated with? I mean, there's a whole spectrum of possibilities between those two poles.
Yeah, Lower Decks has an opportunity to really like impact the story and of Orions and like really bring depth to them. It would be cool, and they could do it in a way that we might not be able to get very easily in a live action show just because of budget. Like you could do really cool, epic kinds of stories as we've seen Lower Decks do all season one. Not all of season one, but sometimes in season one.
Well, so Hell, what do you have for your number 3 thing you'd like to see in Star Trek Lower Decks season 2?
So this is a critique some folks made, and I kind of felt it too. So my number 3 is something gay. So I'd like to see a little more representation of the LGBTQ, and I think it's I now. Oops, I'm gonna get canceled from my own community. But anyways, from the LGBT community, it would be cool to see some characters. Especially I think some folks. On the one hand, I thought it was great that people were wondering about like Boimler and other characters, but on the other hand, it'd be cool to just have a character that's like identifies, as something, in that spectrum.
Yeah, Mike McMahon said we are getting that though, and he said that he's actually confirmed that Mariner is a queer character.
Oh,
But
okay.
we don't see any of that in season 1. So it's
We don't. So
I mean,
I'd like to see that in season 2. But
yeah,
if
he
it's already
says that,
confirmed that
but
he said that,
it's
then
kind
I
of
have another
only
one.
on paper. Okay,
Yeah.
what's your substitute number 3 then?
All right,
We'll
so my
do a redo on
substitute, my substitute for number 3 is either the USS Enterprise, the Hood, or the Constellation. Not even the characters, just the ship. Like we don't have to get into like TNG cameos or TNG era cameos or anything like that. But it'd be cool to just see the ship on screen.
Those are very specific. The Enterprise, the Hood, or you said the Constellation.
Right. That's why it's my number 3. My number 1 is also ship related, by the way.
Like isn't like the Constellation class, or do you want to see like an actual like USS Constellation?
The USS Constellation itself, or the Hood, or the
Which
Enterprise.
hasn't actually appeared, right? We've never
Right.
actually seen the Constellation.
I think it's mentioned in Star Trek 4, I want to say, but I might be wrong about that. I could be wrong. But the Constellation class is the Stargazer, right? Like that would be exactly. So
Yeah.
Right, because it was originally going to be a Constitution class ship that the Ferengi show up with, and they had to redub it Constellation. They needed like a word that you could dub over Constitution when Wesley Crusher and Geordi are saying Constitution class ship to each other. So they had them do the ADR and replace the dialogue, and they just subbed in the word Constellation instead of Constitution, and then did like a really cool kit bash job. I always really liked the design of the Stargazer.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But yeah, that would, and then why the Hood? That's the Excelsior class ship that first showed up in Encounter at Farpoint that Geordi and Riker were on. But why that one?
Was that the one Riker used to serve on?
Yes,
I believe so, and it drops him off
and
at
Geordi.
Encounter. Right.
Oh, I had not realized that.
So for that reason, also the Hood is another real life designation for vessels. So I'd like to see it show up, just because I'm a fan of naval vessels and the Navy in general.
The Hood was a I mean, there were several hoods in real life, but the very
Yeah.
famous one was in World War II.
That's right.
The battle with the German ship, the Bismarck.
Yep.
Yes,
So
a
that would be
whole
cool.
collection of ships named after America's greatest warmongers.
The hood I'm talking about was a British ship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Okay, so
Enterprise was originally a British ship. as
yeah,
well,
I
if
knew
I'm not
Enterprise
mistaken.
was, but I didn't realize Hood went back there. But yeah, you're right.
In Enterprise has been used by the U.S. and a lot of those classic ship names like Enterprise, Exeter. They've shown up in both instances for the British fleet and the American fleet.
I always liked Enterprise spelled with a Z.
Yeah,
So
it's cool.
I think the French there were some French Enterprises also, if I recall correctly. All right. Well, my number 3 is I want to see connections to the less represented Star Trek shows, things that like we haven't gotten a lot of cool little Easter eggs and stuff from in season 1 of Lower Decks or the other shows. So I think they've done a lot with Next Generation and Voyager. What with Janeway being on a new show, 7 of 9 being on a new show, Tom Paris showing up as a plate. And they're even referencing a lot of the animated series in Lower Decks, which I love because it went so many decades with so little attention given to it. I guess they occasionally would like reference stuff in DS9 or Enterprise, but for the most part, TAS was largely ignored. But yeah, I want to see Lower Decks also draw from Discovery. We did get that Linus looking Saurian on the what's the Titan class ship that Riker commands? I can't think of it for some reason.
The Luna class, and it is the Titan.
Luna, yeah, it is the Titan. Luna class. They're all named after moons. But yeah, so we did get a Discovery style Saurian there, so that's kind of a Discovery connection. But I want to see like a little bit more. I want to see some of the like Discovery props or ship designs or some of those like old uniforms or something show up just to tie that into the rest of the family, since it is kind of or at least visually kind of like the odd man out. I want to see some connections to Enterprise, even though like I'm not the hugest Enterprise fan. I just want to see Enterprise get some respect on the show.
That'd be cool.
And of course, the big one for me, my favorite Star Trek show of all time, would be Deep Space Nine. I kind of always work this into the list somehow, but I want to see like a Deep Space Nine character or an actual return to Deep Space Nine on just like that one shot of the station that we got in Cupid's Errand Arrow in season 1. I want to see like actual like walking around the promenade, hanging out with Morn, drinking at Quark's type of thing. No, that's not Quark's bar that was in that episode. That was a different bar. But they don't look anything alike. But yeah, so I would love to see some of that stuff because Next Generation and Voyager are cool, but yeah, we're seeing a lot of stuff from them. So let's pull from some of the other shows if we're gonna be that Trek show that pulls from all the other things. Let's diversify.
I do like Boat Trek's comment there at the bottom. I don't know how to.
Yeah,
put that.
If no one can tell.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, our friend TJ, aka Boat Wreck, says disco Klingons in LDS, but no one knows they're Klingons.
That would be an epic gag if they do that. It would just be really funny.
On a similar note, it occurred to me that if I was going to have a relatively short reference to disco in Lower Decks, and I was the one in charge, what it would be is that Boimler becomes obsessed with a conspiracy theory that Discovery wasn't actually destroyed in the Klingon War, but that something else happened to her.
No, that's what Trek on the Tube said. Except,
okay,
his suggestion was you use that guy Steve who was the Wolf 359 was an inside job guy.
Oh,
Yes.
I think it'd be more fun if it was one of the more focused regulars. But yeah, and then like Mariner has to slap him into shape or whatever and get him back to reality. So, with the joke being, of course, that he was right, but he never finds out that. So yeah, I don't know. That popped into my head is how I would probably do it if I was going to put it.
And then Jill also has a comment in our live audience. Mariner was involved with the visiting captain in school, methinks. Jill, that is what Mike McMahon said. He said that that was an ex-romantic partner of Mariner. We're talking about the captain who is like the substitute teacher, like Jellicoe, who came on board the ship for a single episode. That's what Mike McMahon said, but again, it was kind of only on paper because I don't know, maybe other people read that out of the context of the episode, but I didn't see any of that. To me,
no,
it felt like a friend from college or from high school that now they've reunited. Is what it felt like to me.
I mean, yeah, it's not that couldn't be true. Like if they brought her back and revealed it, it wouldn't necessarily. I don't think it would feel like they'd change something. But yeah, I don't feel any hint of them being ex-romantic partners in the first episode that she's in. The first time she showed up, but only time at this point.
Hopefully, we do actually see that representation in this second season because it. Like I said, it's kind of only in theory at this point. We haven't really had any solid evidence of it in any of the shows.
There are lots of wonderful things.
Any of the episodes, I should say.
There are lots of wonderful things they can pull from 90s Trek, but lightly implied maybe LGBT characters is not one of them. So,
right.
We should have something a little more definite.
And it's going to happen. So I totally forgot that. Now that you're talking about it, I actually remember seeing some tweets from Mike McMahon about that. So it's cool.
Cool. Well, Brian, do you want to take us into the twos and give us your number two thing you most want to see?
All right. Number two, I guess 1 and 2. Okay. Number 2. And this maybe is not something hardly anyone else cares about, but I want a good explanation as to why Mariner is staying on this ship when it means that she's constantly in this cycle of a toxic relationship with her mother. When she could be, by the end of season 1, it seems pretty clear that the reason Mariner doesn't even necessarily want to be the irresponsible person that she is, but she's doing it to upset her mom, who's captain of this ship. So if Mariner if Mariner was just on another ship, she would probably be a whole lot more responsible and less aggravating and less destructive to morale and command structure, because it sounds like she doesn't even want to do all this stuff. She just feels she has to get at mom. But then I come back to, why the hell is she on this ship? There are lots of other ships. Whenever she shapes up and focuses on the job, she's super effective at getting things done. She's clearly a very high level character, even if her rank is low. Yeah. She shouldn't and I wouldn't think it'd even be that hard to get a transfer to another ship. Even as an ensign, there's ensigns on every ship.
In the series,
didn't they address that though?
Yeah, they do. So they say Mariner herself says that this is she's kind of been through all the other ships and she has been transferred.
She got kicked off the Keto.
It was
her Admiral Dad. Admiral Dad.
Who said, no one else will take her or something like that.
Yeah.
So it isn't. Okay. I thought the behavior was more about being stuck close to mom and constantly wanting to aggravate mom.
Well, I think it's also
the
commentary.
Dad stuck her close to the mom.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the behavior predated being stuck close to mom.
I think there's two things going on. She does act like that, and she shows as little initiative and tries to until it's something she's interested in, and so that's probably gotten her booted off. Like her like kind of attitude sometimes, she can be a little confrontational, but ultimately also I think it might also be a commentary on how so many folks are moving back in with their parents. So many people are moving back in with their parents. It's a weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm stretching here, but to me, it's like a weird commentary on
it
that.
might be designed to resonate with that part of the audience, but given how toxic their relationship is, it still feels like. I mean, if we go with your interpretations,
is it still
maybe
a toxic relationship? Like they kind of patched things up in like the season finale.
Well, yes,
like
but how did we get to this point? Is a question I'm still wrapped. And apparently, if she was misbehaving and this completely disinterested in Starfleet as an organization and only interested in seeing new planets and meeting new people, you can do that outside of Starfleet. I think Seven of Nine's parents clearly show that you can just go get yourself a ship and go out there and check out planets all by yourself, and get together your wacky, crazy group of sidekicks and have at it. You don't need to be stuck in a command structure run by your parents and have all these rules and rank issues and all of that if you don't want to be. So there's still a big question mark here about her that in my mind has yet to be answered. And so that's my number 2 is, well, we haven't seen the whole picture, and I hope they're going to show us more of the picture, because they've shown us a big hunk, and what they've shown us, I don't know, apparently I somewhat misinterpreted what they've shown us, because I thought it was more about being toxic because her and mom were in a cycle of kind of, obnoxiousness to each other. But now it sounds like, oh no, she's kind of toxic-ish or obnoxious to everybody. So
they haven't been super clear on it. They haven't really spelled it out in a very clear way. Again, this also reminds me of something that's coming up on my list, but I'll still.
It also reminds me of something on my list for number 2.
Okay.
Before we go to Starfleet Boys number 2, I just want to bring up this comment from parenthesis Eyes, who said, LDS would be a good way to bring back William Shatner as Kirk. You can have him show up as a hologram, similar to Janeway in Prodigy. I think, if William Shatner is ever going to be Captain Kirk again, I think that actually something like that might be the most likely way. Because I don't think it's likely to happen. But if it was going to happen, I could see this as something that might happen.
If they did do it, would you want them to do a
time travel story?
Kirk comes to visit through time travel, parallel universe, whatever the mechanism, sci-fi mechanism is. He comes to visit and he's the focus of an entire episode, or would you want a quick cameo where they're hopping universes and they bump into Kirk and he says something funny and then the story continues without him?
Assuming that Shatner doesn't phone it in, that he does like a pretty good, they catch him in a good mood and he's like excited about it. I wouldn't mind like a bigger episode.
I think there's an opportunity.
Like cameo, that'd be cool.
I think there's an opportunity to poke fun of Discovery and call it Relics 2.
Instead of Unification 3.
Yeah,
Relics 2. Relics Take 2.
Take 2. Relics 2. Okay.
More relics.
more relics.
What if they go to Viridian 3 and someone's like, hey, look, under the stack of rocks there's a skeleton. I wonder who this is.
And they grow a clone from it.
Well, yes, you have some mad scientist growing a clone of Kirk on Viridian 3, and then they have to deal with it, and he, I don't know, saves everyone and then trips and falls off a bridge and dies.
Jill's like, yes, bring back the Dyson Sphere too. I agree.
Yeah. And Jill 47 also tells us, one thing I want from season 2 is to find out how old Mariner actually is. Her schoolmate is a captain now. Boimler thinks he and Mariner are the same age. I doubt it. Yeah, I was under the impression that she's not much older than him, that they're all kind of in their mid-20s, probably.
There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of you're still an ensign going on with people she bumps into.
They have stated that she's been promoted and demoted, and we saw her get promoted and demoted.
Yeah,
in season 1.
She hated it when she was. What was she, lieutenant?
Yeah. Well, what was it? Picard became a captain in his 20s or some crazy thing. So, and that's before you even get into Chris Pine. But
I think it was in his 30s. I think.
Was it?
Well, I don't know, because I'm thinking of the battle at Maxima, but that's when the Stargazer was destroyed, not when he took command.
When he took command?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he probably took command in the 2340s. And I think he's supposed to be early 50s in 2364 when the show begins. So...
Right.
No, yeah. So that put him in his 30s, wouldn't it?
I could have swore it was in his late 20s, but
it might have been.
Yeah, I haven't crunched the numbers. I seem to recall it was a plot point in a Star Trek novel I read, and it was late enough It was a late enough written novel. They should have had access to things like the chronology and stuff to get their numbers right.
But it's odd. There's like a 9-year gap between the destruction of the Stargazer and encounter at Farpoint. There's like almost a decade that he just wasn't commanding a ship, but he's supposed to be like one of the best captains ever.
Do we know he wasn't commanding a ship, or we've just never heard about? Okay, so
yeah, because I think somewhere they clarify that like he the Stargazer was his previous ship, and then the Enterprise, and then no other ship in between. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's a solid.
It would be an interesting place for Picard to go to do a reunion episode with all these people we've never seen before from that lost era of Picard.
You want us to bring stuck in the TNG seasons 1 and 2 uniforms that all the actors hated.
Yeah. I guess we met Dr. Ben Ayoun, right?
Yeah, but he was a Stargazer crew member.
Right, that's someone after the Stargazer, but before the Enterprise D. That exploring that area could be entertaining, but I not sure if it's the sort of serious drama they want to do in Picard. But
well, Starfleet Boy, please inform us about the number 2 thing you most want to see in Star Trek Lower Decks season 2.
So I think Tanya Newsom was saying how like one of the interesting things about them getting along at the end, her Mariner and her mom, is that like in season 2 that was like Mariner's thing, like was her beef with her mom. So like in season 2, what are they gonna do? And I want to see maybe like a moment where we have a follow-up to the Wrath of Vindicta called The Search for Vindicta, because now she's soft and she kind of needs that toughness from Vindicta again. And so
they could do a sequel. They could do like a Vindicta movie in the holodeck every season. I hadn't thought of that. But yeah, that is...
I'm fine with them doing a sequel in the holodeck. I don't know if I want them to bring back Slacker Mariner anymore.
Not like bring her back permanently, but bring her back for something important that had that where Mariner needs her. Like maybe like even kind of like maybe even it plays on the episode where Kirk gets split in two, and his like his rough side is his like dark side and his light side need to come together. So it's something like that where she finds balance.
The enemy within.
Thank you.
But do they kind of think that? Like she like literally fought herself in that episode?
She does fight herself. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
But revisiting the world of mocking Star Trek movies in the holodeck in general, as I would love to see them do that again. I don't really want to see.
Though. They did it so well that first time.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Would it kind of diminish the novelty of that if they did it regularly?
I mean, you'd have to find a new angle to approach it on. I obviously you'd maybe not focus on movies, maybe make fun of some other aspect of Star Trek. Boimler's feeling down, so Mariner just accidentally concocts a a Star Trek convention as a gimmick to send him there so that everyone's screaming and shouting and wanting autographs from him and all of that. But of course, hilarity ensues as problems occur that were unforeseen. And so the joke would be, it's not, somehow Mariner has accidentally created Star Trek fandom just on a lark to keep Boimler happy. There are other meta things you could do with the holodeck in this show that I think could be fun.
And Boatrek has given us something that he doesn't want in season 2. He says, I don't want any more bleeps. I think he's talking about when they bleep out curse words on the show. But I actually really like those. I think the jokes work so much more. It makes it so much funnier.
Mike McMahon also revealed in his live tweet for the season finale of Lower Decks, he took over the Star Trek account and was tweeting it's actually set up really cool.
He was live tweeting the season 1 finale, no small parts,
right? And he said that no one at CBS actually told them to bleep the curse words, but he somehow felt it was appropriate. So maybe that kind of gives us a clue as to where Mike McMahon stands on cursing. Ironically, even though there's more cursing in Lower Decks than in any other Star Trek.
Picard, I think, probably has a little bit more.
Than Lower Decks? I mean, there's a lot of bleeps. I can count way more bleeps than I can count curse words in Picard.
They drop a lot of F-bombs in Picard.
They do. It's true.
I just always assumed that, that was always part of the joke.
Me too. I actually assumed
always doing that intentionally. Like, that's kind of and some of the time when you don't know what they're saying, it makes it funnier that you don't know.
Right.
You could
use your own imagination.
You could have fun with Mariner cusses in front of her mom at an important diplomatic thing. And so mom reprograms the universal translator program that updates everyone's communicators so that every time she says a swear word, it substitutes some bizarre, silly word. And so then they never change it for the rest of the show. There's just this running thing that, what, the elephant, or something like that. And
I would actually like to see the bleeps and what is that called? The series of symbols. There's a name for it. I forget what it's called, but
but just like if you hold down the shift key and then type on the number row on your keyboard,
right?
All that stuff that shows up. All the special characters,
right? But there's like a term for it in screenwriting, and I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, like in comic books, like they'll use that in place of curse words.
That.
Well, speaking of that, I want some Lower Decks comic books. I think that'd be funny.
Yeah. And how about a soundtrack, guys? Soundtrack.
Yeah.
All other Star Trek's got a soundtrack.
What's the dude's name? Westlake, right? The composer.
Don't remember. Could be.
I think his name is Westlake, but he had a really good soundtrack in season 1, and Mike McMahon, when he was live tweeting no small parts, I didn't follow that, but I did see a couple things. One of the things he said there that I thought was really cool. He said that they take the score seriously and that the music is not allowed to be part of the joke most of the time. That's kind of their rule of thumb.
So it's not like Star Trek 4.
But they made an exception with Riker when they have some jazzy music for Riker when he's talking about jazz music. But so I think that was kind of an appropriate time to make an exception to the rule. But I like that. I like that approach that the music is serious, even if there's silly things happening. The music is kind of the same way they would write music for a serious Star Trek show.
So no Chekhov's run.
Oh, that's so fun. I love the silly energy from that.
That's a very want to
run around. Yeah, it's true. I feel like I should run around with the Marines chasing me or something. But it'd be fun, not scary or anything. So I guess we'll move on to my number 2 thing that I want to see in season 2 of Lower Decks. And Brian, this is very, very much in the same ballpark as stuff you were talking about, but I want character backstories, just in general for all these people. I did list as an example. I want Tendi Orion stuff, like we talked about. I also would like to hear more about Rutherford and his implant. He said he was just getting it because it was like the latest, newest, and greatest technology. But is there more to that story about like why he wanted that? Mike McMahon's kind of hinted at least one point, or that's how I interpreted it. There might be more of a story there. Also, Boimler. I kind of want to know what was Boimler like growing up. What are his parents like? This like super like weird neurotic guy. I'm kind of curious, like what was his academy years like? Was he getting bullied by a 24th century Finnegan or something? Like, I kind of want to see that stuff. Mariner, we talked about that, but I want to know more about like Mariner's family arrangement. Like, why does she have a different last name than her mom? And I don't know like the relationship with the admiral there. That's her dad. Like, are the parents divorced? They were acting like they were married. I don't know. Maybe they just chose not to change anyone's name, and they gave Mariner her dad's name, or maybe she changed it because she liked the name Mariner. I don't know. I'm just kind of curious. There's obviously more stuff there. They've hinted at it, but they're kind of beating around the bush. It's time to reveal some of those secrets and give us some of these character backstories.
Yeah,
I
I would be interested in seeing that. I'll admit Boimler largely feels like a cartoon to me. I mean, he is a cartoon, but in a way that like the others, I have trouble like taking Boimler seriously as a character. He's so caricatured. And whereas they did finally get me to the point where I feel like I have enough of a grip on Mariner that I can buy that she's some sort of at least fictional person that I can care about and worry about. And so, yeah, I would like them to enrich Boimler in some way that makes me, I like watching him make jokes, but it would be nice if and occasionally I feel bad for what happens to him, but I would like to feel like he's more of a real person. So
I miss when you called Boimler Bremler like all last year on Tex-Trek.
It took him a whole season, but he finally got it down.
I never corrected you because I
over that one. A lot of people trip over Boimler.
I never corrected you because I enjoyed it too much.
They mock that in the show though. Like people say his name wrong.
Yeah, I think they do. I think that's one of the things that Freeman calls him actually is Bremler. So Brian was probably like, Bremler. Okay, got it.
Shax got it wrong in Temporal Edict, I think. And then Riker got it wrong. He called him Bimler, I think.
Bimler.
In no small parts.
Should they save all the backstory family stuff for season 7, though, Fathery?
I was thinking about that, but I was like, I don't want to wait that long. But yeah, they could.
Yeah, do like Next Generation season 7, where like every episode someone's surprise relative shows up. That was a terrible season of Star Trek, though, so they shouldn't do that.
I don't know if I'd call it a terrible season, but it
had some good episodes. But
it was a little. It was not their greatest season either. Anyway.
It was too short a season.
I think it was too long, but Brian, let's speaking of Riker, let's get into the number 1 territory.
All right, number 1.
What's your number 1 thing you most want to see in Star Trek Lower Deck season 2?
I don't know how plausible this is. I mean, it could, but I would like to see a big, meaty crossover with the world of the animated series, not just an alien or something, but like they end up going back in time and stuck on one of those Constitution class ships, and all the art and everything is drawn like the way it used to be, and with the same background, what looked like the same background plates for the bridge and the transporter room. And it doesn't, I mean, I think it would be weird to recast the voices of the original series, and obviously a lot of them aren't around anymore, and trying to get a bunch of them to show up would be probably prohibitively expensive. So maybe we go back to the Yorktown instead of the Enterprise, where we cross over with the look of that world and even the music. Maybe, I know they don't like doing that. You just told me that they don't like doing funny music, but I would love to see an episode devoted to that in some way, where much like that Transformers animated series crossover comic, where they really sink their teeth into the old 70s animated series, and we hang out there for a while. And
with those old scientists.
Maybe see some of maybe go to one of the crazier places that they visited in the series.
You know what? They should do that and have Walter Koenig guest, because he
Oh,
didn't
it'd
get
be
to be in the
amazing.
animated series. So they have him.
That would be
He's just like the
awesome.
only one who shows up. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing like my security training on like this other ship." Well, I heard he got replaced by a Dodosian named Eric's on the Enterprise, something like that. But yeah, like just have Walter and no one else. I think that'd be really cool. I would be all for that. Yeah.
Did they not do something in Lore? Is it my imagination, or did they not do something in Lore X where they showed like Kirk and Spock or something, and they were drawn in the animated series style?
They did. That was also in no small parts when they
that's right.
went to Beta 3,
that's right.
where they had to stop Landrew again.
Yeah.
So like for TAS, it could be those amazing scientists.
Perhaps. Or if they're not very good, like those amateur scientists.
Those amateur scientists. Yes,
like, Chekhov's a young guy, he's an amateur.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Doing a Chekhov story. But yeah, that would be really cool. That's something that I would have loved to see in season 1. I was always hoping that this would be the show that would give us more animated series connections. And yeah, I think doing like a time travel, that's one of the things I suggested, was like they either time travel to the 23rd century and it looks like TAS, or they show a flashback to the 23rd century, and for the part of the episode that's a flashback, they recreate that animation style.
I'm amending my number 1 idea with the idea that you just kind of presented.
Okay.
Well, everyone just heard that idea, so
no, I know, but I'm amending, like I'm taking your idea and tweaking it a little, and reconfiguring my number 1 idea. Really...
I love the idea of adding Chekhov, because that would, going back and seeing the Yorktown would be a little weird, because everyone's kind of, well, where's Kirk and Spock? Well, it's the Yorktown. We're not going to get to see them. And that would be, perhaps less than satisfying. But if you put Chekhov there, the one guy who wasn't on the animated series, and this is what he was up to.
And he's the ensign. He's the lower decker of TOS. Yeah, he's the ensign.
Yeah. He's the lower decker. And he could have been, I don't know, off on another ship or something and getting treated like crap there. And
right.
That would work really, really well. And then there could be jokes about, SETI Alpha 5 and 6, don't get those mixed up. So, and stuff like that. And at the end, after they're gone, he's like, now what were they saying? Which planet was they? Sure, they said it. Well, it can't be that important.
That's actually why he's so horrified when he sees the botany bay. He's like, this is what they were talking about. He's like, they tried to warn me. I couldn't remember.
Oh yeah, like when he's like Botany Bay.
Or Boimler tells him, but mixes up the numbers of the planets, which is why he thinks he's got it right. He actually got it wrong because of Boimler.
That'd be funny too. So many opportunities for gags with Chekhov. The original lower decker. That's really cool.
SETI Alpha 5. Well, I was thinking that, but a few years ago, I met this person who told me I was gonna.
Starfleet boy, what do you have as your number 1?
Okay, so originally I just wanted Captain Morgan Bateson and the Bozeman like a follow-up to that. Oh, yeah. But I'd actually like it now if they time traveled and were the reason why the Bozeman, like unknowingly the reason why the Bozeman gets flung into the time loop for 80 years or whatever it is.
I'm going to see Kelsey Grammer in a few days, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's going to be in Vegas.
Which would be, and that's the main reason I want it, is I would love a Kelsey Grammer.
What's the main reason you wanted to go?
Well, no, the main reason I wanted that episode with the Bozeman is my number 1 is because I love Kelsey Grammer. I think his character could totally be amazing as a
funny
character.
Dude.
He's a funny dude. Yeah.
So yeah, if they got him in the booth and recorded some stuff. I bet they would get some gold out of him if they wrote it well.
So, Father, you see how I stole your idea a little bit and amended it to mine. But there are also opportunities to have him later because he's he's a time refugee, of course, him and his crew, and I think in the Apocrypha in the novels there's even like a connection between the design of the Enterprise, the Sovereign class, and him. There's some
Yeah, he
sort of
helped
like
design it.
design it. Yeah,
He's
so
in that book, Ship of the Line.
Ship of the Line. Thank you. I was trying to remember.
Which takes place between. It's like that first year after Generations.
Right.
I think I read that
something
one.
in there. Yeah.
Yeah. I was one of the. Yeah, I read that one. So.
Yeah, it's weird because I guess like the Bozeman stayed in service because it was at the battle and the beginning of First Contact. They mentioned like the USS Bozeman's all that subspace chatter we hear. So I guess they were just like, yeah, so like you were lost in time for a few decades, but you want to go like back to work now? That's what they did in Discovery.
She's gonna be
yeah,
the same age. She's gonna be the same age as what she was, so she's probably still a very new, like a very she hasn't had.
I think they say they quote how long that design's been out, and what it ends up being is it looks like the
Miranda
Bozeman.
class.
No, there was a different class for the. It was a different class for the Bozeman. It was a
no, I know it looks like the Miranda though without the.
But they name its class and it's a different one, and I'm blanking on it. Anyway,
is it the
Soyuz?
Yeah,
Soyuz class
sounds right. Soyuz class. Anyway,
yeah.
Looking at the dates, it looks like the Soyuz is the predecessor or older brother of the Miranda. So it's probably almost even older than the Miranda class, though probably not by a lot of years, 5 or 10 years or 15 years older or something like that.
Yeah.
And maybe I begin to wonder, did it originally have cylindrical nacelles, and what we're seeing there is a refitted Bozeman?
There's been a lot of fan designs of like TOS style Miranda class ships.
I would like to see a TOS style Bozeman, the what the Bozeman looked like before it got the new TMP nacelles on it now.
I'll do you one better and rewind it to the 2350s and say I want to see a Discovery version of the Bozeman, a disco Bozeman.
That would be cool.
I don't know if the design was supposed to be that old, but it may be. Yeah, sure. It could be. There's all those disco ships. You could stick a Bozeman and something pretty Bozeman-like in there.
There is a ship that kind of has that styling.
Yeah, the Europa.
The Europa, yeah. It's very similar.
Except it has 4 nacelles. Yeah, it has a very similar profile to the Miranda.
Oh. Yeah, there's so many disco ships. I kind of thought I knew all the Starfleet ships, and then disco came along, and I'm like, just throw all the papers in the air and walk away. Fine, whatever. This is a job for the new generation. I'm this old technologist, can't keep up anymore.
Star Trek Discovery sidelines the ship fetish, so to speak. Like, you don't really get too much information about the ships.
Yeah, because they don't have guys like Doug Drexler and Mike Okuda in the art team that they went out of their way to
give
all
the backgrounds and
consistent
stuff,
and put like a lot of like thought and effort behind. I'm not saying the people who work on Discovery are bad at their jobs. I'm just saying like they don't have like that high priority like the art team in the Berman era Trek did. And it's only because they happen to hire like those types of dudes that were like the huge Star Trek fans before the Berman era.
Right. Or nerds, we can say.
Or yes, potentially less flattering nerds. God damn.
I'm also going to see Mike Okuda at
whose birthday is today.
And I'm gonna tell him that don't pay any attention to the guy on YouTube called Starfleet Boy because he called you a nerd.
It's his birthday today, and I love Mike Okuda. I can't reach it because my headphones, but I have like the technical manual, which by the way, if you want to support Mike Okuda, you can still get that on Amazon, or not Amazon, but anywhere you can buy books. It's still in print.
You can get it digitally.
Yeah, you can also get it digitally. Yeah. And it's his birthday today, so happy
I
birthday,
got it
Michael
on
Kuda.
I got it on my phone through the Google Books app, just so I can like look it up at any moment if I need to look up the next generation technical
Oh,
manual.
I see. I thought you meant the actual CD technical manual that they did, which had all the text from it, but in an interactive Okudagram graphic thing with video and sound effects and all of that. You guys remember that? Anyone?
I do.
No? Yeah,
I do.
I think it's on the shelf right behind me.
Very cool.
I didn't have that. I had the Encyclopedia CD-ROM that they put out in the 90s, where you which was also by Mike and Denise Okuda. Cool, interactive technical manual.
I don't know if it'd play on Windows XP or no, but Windows 7 or not. But maybe I should try.
I understand that Windows supports all the thing. Like it's very legacy friendly, so you might actually get it. Oh, it's not. Oh, my bad.
There's a bunch of like old like Windows 95 and 98 software that won't work on any modern OS.
Oh, okay. My bad. Sorry. But someone may have emulated it, or there could be emulators that you could run to play it through. So
probably not for something that obscure, but I don't know. The Star Trek fan community might be the if there were anyone who were going to take something like that.
It's for Windows.
Cool. That's so cool.
I remember this was a hell of a lot of fun at the time, but and then getting kind of depressed when I realized all the text was the text from the book, and I'd read the book like twice. So after I started playing with it, okay, the sound effects and the pushing the buttons and zooming in and seeing all the color photos was really cool. But then
they just copied to realize, and pasted.
Well, yeah, they set it all up so it was in different places, but there were, and then it would be interactive.
If you wanted a less convenient way to read all of that stuff, you could put the disc into your computer and pull it up that way.
Well, yes, and the fact that I'd already knew there wasn't any new, there wasn't a lot of new information here, and that was the disappointing part. So they also did the bridge program where you could walk around on all the bridges in 3D and not walk around, but look around on all the bridges from various points. And that one was that was very different because it wasn't regurgitated text. It was just get to stand anywhere you want on these famous, or almost anywhere you want on these famous bridges.
It was like the Google Street View. But you just like pointed and like you were like, I want to go up there to like Wharf Station, and you click on it and go up there.
And then you could zoom in on the console and push buttons and launch torpedoes and phasers and
they included that in some other software. I think they might have stuck that into the Encyclopedia computer program also, because I had something that had that. Remember, like on the TOS bridge, you could actually look into Spock's scanner.
Yep.
And it had like a cool visual when you looked into there and stuff.
I think you could even change the settings so it like had two different things you could see in the scanner depending on which setting which switch you flipped.
I gotta look it up. I'm sure it's archived somewhere online. But in like the 80s, at some point, my cousin had the Mac Classic, the little first Macintosh, the little box, that you could take around, and there was a version like a 8-bit version of like Star Trek battle thing where you had little models of the it was the Enterprise in it, and it looked like the movie version with the slanted pylons and whatever, and you saw like little line phasers and little dot photon torpedoes firing at and the Klingons.
I think I know what is that. Just a variation on the arcade game they used to have for Star Trek. Okay,
it's like that. It's kind of like that. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. They had like a forward view and then like a top down view on the screen at the same time. Yeah, okay.
Yes, that's it. Oh my gosh!
But my friends had it, and I watched them play it. I was terrible with hand-eye coordination at a younger age, so I didn't play any of the games, but I'd ask my friends to boot up the cool games and play them, and I'd I don't know, play Backseat Driver and stuff to them and stuff.
That game may be responsible for my decent hand-eye coordination.
Helps getting the high score on it.
Yeah. I guess Boat Trek says he still uses Windows 95.
Yeah, so he's the guy we need to.
That feels like a lie.
And here I was feeling bad about my Windows 7. So.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and cap things off with my number one. But the number one thing that I want to see in Star Trek Lower Decks season 2 is character growth. So kind of similar to my number two. My number two was I wanted like character backstory. My number one is I want character growth. But yeah, I don't want this to be kind of a static show where the characters don't evolve over time. I want there to be some growth. I want to invest in these people and kind of watch them grow up and mature and change over the years. What's important to me is that like Boimler, we know that like he got promoted. He's a lieutenant now. He's off on the Titan, but I want to see him return. You know, when he's inevitably demoted, I want it to be because not because like he was just like incompetent or like he got too nervous, he panicked, or he couldn't think under pressure. All this stuff we've seen him struggle with in season 1. I want him to like grow up a little bit, and either he chooses to be demoted, or he makes some type of like moral choice that like defies orders, and that's what gets him demoted. Something like kind of like a more Mariner move. It also occurs to me, Riker is the guy who stayed on the Enterprise and turned down promotions for years and years. So if Boimler decides he's in over his head, if he's like,
great.
you know what, I need to go back to the Cerritos. I'm not ready for the Titan. My friend Mariner, I think that I have a lot to learn from her. I think she even might have like a little bit to learn from me. My place is back there. I'm sorry, Captain Riker, but I'm just not ready yet. Riker's the probably the one captain in Starfleet. You tell that to, you'd be like, I understand completely. You know how many promotions I turned down?
Yeah,
It happened like one time every season, basically. Back
you
on
just
next
gave me a Star Trek moment, Father.
Yeah. I mean, they could have Riker do it, or Troy could actually get to do her job once, but and do some career counseling because
I don't know if we're seeing her. I don't know if we're seeing Troy in season.
Yeah, we
2,
might not see her.
They've only talked about Riker.
Oh, all right. Well, now I'm disappointed. So,
but Boatrek says I'm wrong. He says Boims and Mariner won't change much, if at all. Yeah, if that's the case, I will be disappointed because I don't want this to be a show where it's just the constant status quo forever for an indefinite number of seasons. That will.
I think they are growing, though. I just think that things that won't change are their core, like the core parts of them. Like I think, in some ways, Mariner will always be rebellious, and I think Boimler will always be like goofy. Like
sure, but
it's just like
what I said in season 1, pretty early on, when kind of like when Mariner like took this mission and took Boimler under her wing, and it's like, I'm gonna help you out, Boimler, and try to help you learn and grow and become better at all the space adventure stuff. It's kind of like the ideal Starfleet officer is probably like somewhere in between Boimler and Mariner. And it's probably like 80% Mariner, but then like 20% Boimler, because she does get out of control sometimes. So I kind of want to see like them continue kind of that mentorship relationship and kind of, and we did get bits of that in season 1 where I think Boimler was kind of he started off kind of just a total failure at everything, but then like he did kind of earn like some victories here and there. And we even get like that moment in No Small Parts when the ship is attacked by the Packlids and they go to red alert, and we have Boimler and Mariner up on the bridge, and they're like manning the stations, commanding the ship, and we do see like the competence kind of shine. So yeah, I just want them to continue that I can't talk. Continue that trajectory that they're already on.
I like it.
No, I think that would be good. As I said, I'd like Boimler to 3-dimensionify a bit.
Mm-hmm. Mariner too.
Yeah.
They kind of showed her like coming to terms with some of her issues. So I want them to continue that as well.
Yeah. I Mariner became much more interesting when I saw a bit more of her arc. If she just arcs right back to where she was in season 2, I'm going to be kind of disappointed. So, and I would like that. I would like some of the stuff from season 1 to stick and in season 2. So that I think would be an improvement.
Yeah, I don't need like drastic changes. I don't need them to like completely evolve into like a person that's like unrecognizable from how they started. I don't expect anything as big as like, I don't know, Doctor and Voyager, he's pretty different at the end of the show than he was at the beginning of the show. Like, it doesn't have to be anything like that major, but just some growth.
I mean, I'm fine with actually that level of growth if it's spread out over 7 seasons. You know, I'm fine with them being as different as Doc Holodeck was between season 1 and season 7. But they need to, you know, slowly arc the character, not cram all that into one season.
Did either of you have any crazy ideas that you might have just thought of while we were doing this discussion, or did you have like any honorable mentions that you thought about but didn't quite make your cut, or anything like that? Any other like hopes for season 2 or expectations or anything that you want to get out there?
In the category of crazy ideas, I thought it might be fun to incorporate some Romulan stories that link to Star Trek Picard, because I don't think we're going to get too much more about the Romulans in season 2, and I was really interested in that whole storyline. So that was my crazy idea, but I don't think we'll get that in Lower Decks. I don't think they're going to go there. It's too early, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, it seems like it'd be more likely to deal with the fallout of Star Trek X Nemesis,
right?
Because we are very shortly after that. And I'm sure the Romulans
is a year after that. But they did a story involving the Romulans, and they kind of just like danced around all of that. The Romulans kind of defaulted back to how they were in the Next Generation. So I think that's Mike McMahon wants the Next Generation aesthetic. He wants that vibe. He wants like the kind of like the status quo that existed in the Next Generation. That's kind of what he wants to do here. But we are getting some Cardassia stuff. We've seen a bunch of Cardassians in the trailers, so I don't know how they're gonna handle that post DS9. It'd be kind of unfortunate if the Cardassians just kind of turn back into just like generic shithead adversaries, like how they were in when they first showed up in Next Generation. After everything that we went through with them in Deep Space Nine, it'd be kind of disappointing if we don't really see any shift.
I agree. If the Cardassians definitely should be different. I mean, maybe the Romulans just relapsed and, it was another coup, but it's over now. Back to business as usual. We have a whole set of rules and protocols we enact after those coups to get everything back on track.
Yeah.
Happens so often.
That's kind of what happened going into Nemesis, right? Because they had kind of like, we're at peace with the Romulans. In the Dominion War, there are allies. Romulan L is legal. The trade embargoes are down. And then, get to Nemesis, and it's like, back to like the neutral zone and like Cold War standoffish relationship again.
So, but the Cardassians, that would feel really odd if they weren't at least a little different than how they were depicted on TNG after everything that had happened.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like the Cardassians have always had a sort of fascist, vaguely Nazi-esque kind of verve to them.
I don't think it's vague. I don't think it's
well,
vague
okay, whatever. That's strong. You go to Germany today, and it's not Nazi-ish at all. The complete, utter opposite. It's wildly not that. So
they'll throw people in jail for like drawing swastikas or doing the
Hitler salute. So it would be interesting to see. I mean, I doubt they'll do anything that massive of a cultural shift with the Cardassians, and it hasn't been nearly as many years. The Dominion War got over in 75, and this is 80, so I guess it's 5 years after the war. But it would be nice to see something, some difference, some change in how it's being done and how they're interacting with the Galactic Society.
Lower Decks has a real opportunity to fill in some gaps that could lead to, because like way over in the 32nd century, we're gonna have a totally different Cardassian dynamic. 31st century, everyone's different. Like that's so many. That's 900 years. Less than that, but like it's 800 some odd years ahead of this point. But Picard and Lower Decks are like close enough to each other where they can influence each other, and I think that would be really neat.
Picard is 19. Season 1 of Picard is 19 years after season one.
Right. In fact,
Lower Decks.
In fact, there's going in the other direction of like how if Lower Decks did an animated series crossover or episode, they would animate that way. You could potentially have all the actors from Lower Decks appear as live action characters in Picard. I mean, it's not going to happen, but you could potentially have it, and they could be portrayed by the actual actors that are playing them, which is awesome.
I would love to see. I would love to see Tawny Newsome as a live action Mariner.
Yeah, me too.
Like
All of
that.
them. Yeah, it's like very. Yeah, it's very cool.
That would make my day. I'm just saying, like, at some point in about 5 to 10 years, we are going to hit the 1000th episode of Star Trek.
Ooh.
We kind of dropped the ball on the 50th anniversary. Star Trek Beyond is a decent Star Trek movie, but it wasn't the big celebration that, let's say, Doctor Who got for its 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
So I want something big. I want something big for the
comparison.
1000th episode to make up for that. And I think if you are going to do like a big like Avengers Infinity War style like crossover where everyone's going to like show up for like one big adventure, I think that's the appropriate place to do that.
I think at either Mission Chicago or maybe it was STLV, but the actors are going to cosplay as their characters, so it's going to be cool to see that.
Yes, that's going to be at Chicago.
At Chicago, very cool.
Nice. Picard, tonally, Picard and Lower Decks are like the two least compatible Star Treks in my mind. Tonally, it's like when they had Jack O'Neill show up on Stargate Universe, where I'm like, why did you pick him? You put Bugs Bunny in New Battlestar Galactica, basically. What an odd choice,
but you could. It would be interesting because depending how it's played, if they were to cross over into live action, it would say some interesting things about the cartoon world of Lower Decks versus the real world. You know. So
well, yes. I mean, but do we want to go to the trouble of having Mariner showed up if she isn't a cut up, Hawkeye-esque character?
Well, 19 years later, I really think she
could be different, and it's perfectly logical for her to be different.
Yeah.
But is that really worth? Is it worth bringing the character in if she's not going to do anything we expect her to? I mean, I suppose you could argue they brought Luke in to Last Jedi and he didn't do anything we expected to. But Luke has a slightly different place in pop culture than Mariner does. You've got a parentheses
eyes.
Parenthesis I. In the live audience says both Picard and LDS are inspired by TNG, though, and that's very true. But one is kind of a kind of a tribute to it in some way. It's more than a tribute because Lower Decks has its own thing, its own premise, its own concept.
Lower Decks is unique in that
it's delivered as kind of a love letter.
It's a love letter and at the same time a parody, which I've never seen in a franchise. Like, it's very rare that you can get away with it. Like, it's a unique situation.
But whereas Picard to me, I know some people are kind of rough on Picard. All three of us actually really liked Picard. All three of us really enjoyed season 1. And we all three had some problems with that finale, so you can dislike that and still enjoy the season.
Yeah.
Just FYI. But yeah, Picard to me, it does feel like a natural, I don't want to say evolution, but a natural progression of that character that was established in the Next Generation.
It feels like an epilogue to TNG in a weird way, the first season anyways.
I guess, I mean, Picard is Picard, but sometimes it feels to me like the universe he's in is more like what got left after DS9, a darker, more politically complex, grayer type universe than what we got.
That fits so beautifully. That's so elegant, Brian, because Voyager was off in the Delta Quadrant, so it didn't have to deal with any of that. And very nice. Like, I love that.
And I mean, Nemesis always felt to me like one of the most Deep Space Nine of the TNG movies, as far as feeling like this could have been
Deep Space Nine heavily
capturing that DS9 tone.
The path, if you will.
Yeah, it kind of built
The sacred timeline.
Yes, it built the sacred timeline in a sense. While everyone else was off seeking out strange new worlds, Deep Space Nine was defining the nature of the Federation and the Cardassians, and even the Romulans and the Klingons were all getting kind of nailed down by Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, that's true. I guess one could make the argument that Deep Space Nine had the most consequences for the universe, especially during this time period in the 2380s and 90s, talking about
which is
Decks
why
and Picard.
I'm going to throw in a last minute more DS9, but we know we're going to get that too.
How do we know that?
Oh, we don't know. That's right. Never mind. We hope. Okay, throwing in a last minute.
That's something that I'm begging for, and I want to see it in live action. Let's rebuild that beautiful promenade set.
Let's
rebuild Quark's bar.
Do you know how expensive that set is?
Not with the AR wall, baby.
Do you know how expensive like the sets that they are building is? Like
yeah, it's true.
I don't want no
That's
AR wall promenade. I want it for real.
I mean, I could see them rebuilding like half of Quark's bar or something, but those Deep Space Nine sets, that thing was huge.
Yeah, but if you're going to reuse it, or if you're
someone's gonna pull out of their little hat. You know what? You guys thought the DS9 sets were torn down, but they've actually been in a backlot somewhere this whole time, and like we can put them back together.
I've heard Armin Shimmerman described like being in tears. Or no, he said that like he couldn't even go there, like when they were tearing it down.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, it would have depressed him to see it. So he never went in while they were doing the deconstruction. I mean, I still like I don't want a Next Generation 2.0 show. I don't want like a show of like Picard and Riker and Crusher and the whole gang back together. I don't want that. I don't want like a Voyager 2.0 show that has like all those characters together again. I do want a Deep Space Nine 2.0 show. I want like Star Trek the Return of Deep Space Nine.
If they make a dedicated DS9 show, then sure, rebuild the promenade. Heck, even if you're doing a whole season of Picard where it's kind of set on the station and a lot of it's going to be happening there, then maybe you could justify it. But for a one-off episode, they're never going to rebuild that promenade.
They've been
for
holding
that much.
off on it. They keep like acknowledging TNG and Voyager. Like, why are you holding off on DS9? Are you saving it for something? I hope so, but we don't know. We don't know what the future holds beyond next week, and then the following 9 weeks after that, when we will be getting Lower Decks.
Yeah, less than a week now. Less than a week.
Yeah, so people need to tune in every week at 7:30 p.m. Central, and we'll have live discussions, and then those will be available to watch later on YouTube, or you can listen to the podcast if that's more your speed. The audio version of the show will drop on either late Sunday night or early Monday mornings following our Friday streams. And again, next week is going to be a little different. I'm going to be in Star Trek Las Vegas.
So excited
I'm going to be at 55-year mission, whatever the hell it's called now. But yeah, I'm gonna.
It's called 55-year mission something, the unofficial Star Trek something. It's like...
I'm gonna have the my mobile emitter set up, so hopefully I can still be part of the conversation. But if not, Brian and Starfleet Boy will be there to present our discussion on the season 2 premiere episode, and yeah,
if nothing else, at least you've got to send us a statement we can read.
So. Yeah, it's true.
Sure.
Viva Trek.
I can do that. I can do that.
Viva Trek Vegas.
Our weekly breakdowns of these episodes. I think I'm very proud of the work that we've done. If people want to, if you haven't seen those before, check out what we did on Lower Decks season 1. Check out what we did on the various seasons of Discovery.
Yes.
I really like the way that we can cover whole episodes, from everything from the writing to how they connect to previous Star Trek, to if you watch on YouTube, we have cool little visuals. You don't have to see the visuals to enjoy the show, but it does definitely add something, I think, when we can talk about like, oh, look at this, variation on this type of ship, or look at this new phaser we got here. All those little types of things. I think we're one of the only shows that cover all those bases. I say that we're deep in the heart of Texas and we talk deep about this stuff.
And it's a great excuse to revisit any of this new Trek, because you can watch an episode and then watch our review of it, and then watch an episode and watch our review of it.
And Father actually puts a lot of love into it, because he gets all those screenshots and like just it's epic. You got to come check it out.
I'm embarrassed to admit how much time I put into doing this every week, but
there's a lot of love and effort.
Next week will be a little different, because
Starfleet Point collecting no screenshots. just letting you know.
Who else YouTube and wherever, however you're listening to it, who else like stays up to like 3 a.m. like screenshotting like all these episodes for you. So keep us in mind if you want to check out that content, and we will go ahead and sign off now. But until next time, as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek. And follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take care.